Hey, how's it going? Adrienne Elise here. I just wanted to pop in and talk to you about what's going on in the stars. So we have quite a lot of stuff going on as we lead up into this incredibly powerful new moon in Cancer, speaking to a solar eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse, pretty far away from the moon's nodes, which is what makes an eclipse. But we are really feeling it. The eclipses, we have 3 eclipses this summer, and the eclipses set the tone for the next 6 months of astrology. And so in the next 6 months, that's what we will, in the next eclipse cycle that happens about 6 months from now, the North Node will be in Cancer. And so this new moon, so partial solar eclipse in Cancer, is speaking to this transition. It's not just a new moon, it's a new cycle. It's about the new age of Aquarius and really talking to the breakdown of structures that needs to happen. So we're starting to feel the most potent part of this new moon solar eclipse, in that the sun and the moon will be, for this new moon, will be opposite Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto is the destroyer. It's death, rebirth, transformation, coming through and just breaking down everything that's in the sign of Capricorn, directly across. So the sun is already coming into this opposition. We're just starting to feel that, and all week we're going to be feeling this. And so in this case, we're talking about the breakdown of our identity structures. Like, who do you think you are anyway, right? So our false identity structures, the things we cling to, we kind of get attached to, is a lot about like the conditioning and things we've been told about who we are. This is collectively humanity, who we've been told about who we are, that we're violent and we're angry and we are, want to steal from each other and hurt each other, which is a total lie. But we are in this massive evolution. So in our personal life, we're looking at conditioning and belief systems that have defined us up until this point, maybe through lifetimes. But at this point, right here, right now, in our evolution, these identity structures are no longer true. And so this is very, very evident, because the powerful thing that's happening right now is that, so Mercury's been really potent and having all kinds of messages. Mercury moves pretty quickly. It's coming into a retrograde at the end of this month. So it's starting to slow down, but came into a conjunction with the North Node and then an opposition with Mars this last week. And now it's in a square with Jupiter. And this is so the stars, the way they speak to us, the planets and the cosmos, if we listen to these messages, it's just so potent, because Mercury, after going through these bam, 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 these powerful transits. Now, Mercury is about our conceptual understanding and how we're seeing things in our everyday reality, how we're understanding and bringing things home to a new conceptual understanding. So now Mercury is in square to Jupiter in Scorpio. And so this is really intense, because Jupiter is just about to turn direct. And so it's going to feel, it's quite a change, because we have a lot of planets retrograde right now. And so with Jupiter turning direct, we're going to really feel it. And Jupiter is a big planet. It's got weight and gravity, but it's about light and awareness and amplification. It's like a crystal. So it just kind of like amplifies whatever it comes into contact with. So what's getting amplified right now is our conceptual understanding around the transformation of the shadows. So it's like our false identity concepts and precepts that are trying to get broken down, the things we're attached to that are actually more unhealthy, but we're so used to them. And so those things that are trying to break down right now. And Jupiter in Scorpio is like bringing this light to the shadows as it starts to move direct. It's like the great reveal. And so in a square with Mercury, it's saying, okay, there's a great reveal of information coming in. are changing our conceptual reality. There is so much, like we have all this retrograde energy and kind of going back because Mars is coming into its conjunction, heading into its conjunction with the South Node in Aquarius in its retrograde. And that's really about like the past and going back again. Chiron just turned retrograde last week. It's like going back into the past. What is holding us back? You know, what are we carrying along, pulling behind us, you know, that's kind of weighting us down in this life. And so with this Mercury in a square with Jupiter, just as it turns direct, is so incredibly potent. That means they kind of linger together. Even though Mercury is a fast mover, it's kind of like they're lingering together for a minute and kind of representing this big shift that's trying to happen. And it's about bringing the light to the places of shadow, of programming, things from our early childhood or past lives that are holding us back so that we can change our conceptual reality. Now, we've got all of this going on, and we've got that sun coming opposite of Pluto, just breaking down that false identity, you know, and it's requiring a surrender. But we're having a really lucky, beautiful thing go on when the sun, again, the cosmos is just lining up, because as the sun comes into this opposition, before, you know, it's heading into this opposition with Pluto, but it's also trining up with Neptune and Jupiter. And so it's kind of making this beautiful, bringing these planets into communication again, Neptune and Jupiter coming back into their trine. And so a Grand Water Trine here going on with the sun in Cancer as it heads into this new moon. Now this water trine energy is really awesome for us right now, because Mercury retrograde or Mars retrograde can bring a lot of frustration, of feeling like you're not moving forward, kind of aggression energy, like there's nowhere to put the fight, right? So it's kind of bottled up and repressed fight within us. But what's happening is we're really rearranging how we're going to fight and how we're going to move forward. So it's like everything's rearranging. So, and then the breakdown of our identity is being demanded of us with that sun opposite Pluto and for this Cancer new moon. But with this water trine, it's like, okay, yeah, it's breaking down and stuff's weird and everything is like unsettled and uncomfortable and not really clear. But there's also this wave of energy with this Grand Water Trine that's kind of like, can you ride the wave? Can we just hook in to the forces of the universe? So there is a vital force, the force that runs the universe, the force, this is it's an energetic, it's kind of like what creates worlds, it's what creates everything. We have this access to this inside of ourselves. It's what keeps us healthy, it's what keeps us in equilibrium. And so this water trine seems to have this energy of like being able to tap in and surrender to this vital force of the universe. It's like there's this big welling up. It's almost like coming into this Cancer new moon, right? The tide, the wave is like coming out, right? And it's about to come in hardcore. But, you know, does it have to be chaotic and crazy, or can we ride the wave? Can we just stay on the vital force, like stay with the energy of the universe, like get into the momentum of the flow and kind of like ride the wave through this storm, you know, and just ride it and just trust this huge opportunity and messages around just surrender and trust to your higher self, the highest guidance, and this vital, and the connection between that and this vital force of the universe, and just kind of like getting on the track of that flow. And kind of when things seem weird and crazy and the breakdown is happening, come back, bring your attention back to that, because everything that's happening in our life is outside of that in a way, like it's in the past or the future, right? All of our concerns are about what's holding, you know, trying to resolve the past and trying to, you know, control the future. Now the vital force energy is right here in the moment. And so it's like when you feel like you're getting bogged down with these changes that are trying to happen in your psyche and in the world, in the collective consciousness, the breakdown of our identity, which is often a painful process, you know, it's a death process. An ego death is trying to happen. But the ego part is the part of us that's not true. It's based on what we've been told or conditioning or past experiences. And we need to create the new. That's the big message of this Cancer new moon. It's like Cancer represents the primordial creation force. And so it's like we are rebirthing humanity into this new age. And we've got, so that means like the egg is cracking and breaking, right? And we're being reborn, and it feels really vulnerable. But the force of life that is coming into that makes a rebirth happen, that's a huge force of life that's happening. And so can we just step into that flow and let that push us through and ride it, the wave, instead of being in resistance? So it's about surrendering to everything you thought the way it was supposed to be, or what you were going to do that day. All of this stuff is kind of like, it's all just rearranging too quickly. It's so quickly that we have to just surrender and get into the flow. Now, a part of the energy that's going on right now is a lot that goes along with that, is a lot like the contractions in like labor pains. You know, this is what we're going through. And it's like, oh, getting squeezed and I can't handle it. And I'm at the end of my rope and I don't know how much more I can take, right? And right as you get to that point, typically then it'll relax. There's this in between contractions, okay? That's where we can step back into the flow and know, if you're in the contraction part, that it doesn't last very long, okay? Because even though we've got all these planets retrograde and Mars retrograde and everything, energetically things are happening very fast. And so just be present with the presence as you're going through what you're going through, and know that it's going to pass. You know, you're moving through a contraction. It's getting intense so that you can release more, and then it's going to feel better, and then the contraction will come again. But this can kind of help as we move through these. I'm seeing people kind of go through intense periods of time, but they're not lasting as long. And so if you can just kind of know that there is harmonizing available right now this week, just tapping into this beautiful energy of this water trine and just kind of getting into that flow and trusting this bigger flow of like what created us and what we are created from and who we really are as life force. As that's really all we are, is we're energetic life force, and all these stories around us are going to come and going to go. But we're the life force, and we can ride that wave and come together. So I hope you can join me, consider joining me for this group session. It's a group intuitive session for celebrating and just taking advantage of this potent Cancer solar eclipse that's happening on Thursday. And so this group session is going to be at 8:00 p.m. on Thursday night, the 12th, and that's going to be 7:00 on the West Coast and 10:00 on the East Coast. And we're going to do a group session. That means like an intuitive session, looking at past lives and clearings and healings and resets and all that have to do with shared past lives and experiences of this soul group that wants to come together right now and recognize and surrender to the place of being that vital force and being the holding down the energy that's come through around the solar eclipse, is holding down the fort, like for these changes. It's that light workers coming together and just being present through these breakdown and kind of putting in stable markers for this new reality that's coming in, and just holding space for the beautiful transition that's trying to happen on the planet, and use our collective energy to harmonize this for ourselves and for our whole soul group and for the collective, and send that prayer out. So we're going to do that group session. There'll be an activation and also an opportunity to ask your questions to me, get your questions answered, and that's $20. And I hope you can join. The information is in the information box, and you can sign up for that. And so I hope I can see you then. If not, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful new moon solar eclipse, moving into this new energy and surrendering into the cosmic flow and your place in the flow, where you are connected to your true self, not the paradigms and the programming and the conditioning of who everybody's told you that you are, but your true self that's connected to that cosmic self that is kind of, if we can let that be in charge right now and bring our attention back to that, no matter what's going on around us, that's the key right now, to ride the wave of the change and just get into the flow of it and surrender and let this transformational energy in the universe right now just work with us rather than against us, and come out of the resistance to these changes that are trying to happen. And that's the best way to use the cosmic energy right now. So I look forward to seeing you on the group session or next time. I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.